Hi, I'm Marian Buck Murray, and today I'm going to share with you 5 tips to reduce anxiety. So, anxiety is all around us right now. With so much happening in the world, so many tragedies, so much political unrest, so many natural disasters, fires and floods, so much struggle. It's really hard, especially if you're going through anything, to stay in a peaceful and calm place. Simply by reading the news or by looking at social media, that can certainly trigger feelings of anxiety. And the problem with anxiety and feeling really stressed is that it triggers the hormone cortisol. So cortisol rises when we're under stress. And cortisol is a very good hormone. However, when it's too high for too long, what happens is we actually begin to lose blood from the thinking part of our brain. And that's important because we want our brains to be as effective as they possibly can during these times of just unbelievable events. It's just hard to wrap your head around it sometimes, right? And so to stay in a calm and peaceful place is really, really important. Think about the kid who's sitting in the back of the class, maybe daydreaming a little bit, or maybe not, but the teacher calls on that kid and says, "What's the answer to this question?" And then anxiety and stress rises, and the answer goes right out of the kid's head. And that's what happens, is that when we get very anxious, answers go right out of our head. So sometimes we can even forget things that we already know. And so what I'm going to share with you today are just 5 very simple tips that you can use on a regular basis to help yourself come to a place of peace and calm. These tips are especially important for people who feel like they're very sensitive. I'm a sensitive person, and I have a lot of sensitive friends, and I have clients, a lot of clients who are sensitive. And the thing about being sensitive is that we tend to take on a lot of what is around us. So emotions and feelings and everything else. And it's really important to take the time on a daily basis to clear, to do activities that help to really get back to a centered and peaceful place. And to do this throughout the day as well. All right, so I'm going to share 5 tips today, and I have more tips that I will share at a later date in a different video. And the first tip that I'm going to share today is something you've probably heard many times, but it's to breathe deeply. It's very simple. However, when we're feeling stressed and anxious, sometimes we can actually forget to breathe or forget to breathe deeply. And, if you notice, if you're feeling stressed, sometimes you might be breathing from up here at the top of your chest. And shallow breathing will actually increase the feelings of anxiety. So it's really important to drop the breath down below your diaphragm into the belly and breathe nice, slow, deep breaths. What this does is it stimulates the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve tells the relaxation response to turn on. And that's what we want. We want to relax when we're feeling anxious. So deep breathing will cause the relaxation response to turn on. And you can do this anytime during the day. And you might want, if you're in a stressful situation, if you worked a stressful job or you're just regularly under a lot of stress, you might want to ask a friend or a trusted friend to remind you to breathe because it's easy to forget. I have a friend who teaches Qigong, and she was telling me that, even she forgets, like if she's under some kind of stress, if something happens, for example, that she will forget to breathe, and sometimes she needs somebody to remind her to breathe, right? So we all need help. sometimes. And in times of anxiety and stress, it's really good to reach out to people to just help you stay in a nice, balanced place and just give you some reminders. Are you breathing? Are you breathing deeply? Okay, so that might be helpful for you. So remember to breathe. Okay, so the second tip number 2, is self-massage. So self-massage is something you can do by yourself, and just take your hands and massage your hands, your head, your neck, your shoulders, your hips, your lower back. That feels really good. Just, do a body scan. Close your eyes and just notice in this moment where you're holding tension. And then if you can reach that place with your hands, give it a nice massage. And it feels really energizing, but it's also just helping release all the tension that you're holding there. We hold lots of tension in our bodies sometimes, and we don't even realize that we're doing it. And so a quick self-massage will help you release that. Especially if you're working at the computer a lot, just notice how your hands are feeling, and you can do so much good for your hands just by massaging them and then shaking them out. Okay, so that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is to do the heart breath. So the heart breath is a way of breathing where you actually imagine that you're breathing in and out of your heart. And you start this breath by actually dropping your breath down below in your belly and breathing nice, deep breaths, maybe 3 or 4 breaths. And then bring the breath into your heart. So you can close your eyes as you're doing this and just imagine that as you're breathing deeply, the breath is going in and out of your heart, just sort of wafting in and out. And what this does, it's a very powerful thing to do because it helps you drop out of a busy, anxious, stressed mind into the tranquility and wisdom of your heart. The heart is actually more powerful than the brain, and the heart will help entrain the brain so the brain can go from a very busy, anxious beta brain level down to a calmer alpha level. And when we're feeling calm and relaxed, we actually have access to more information that's very helpful. And many times, if you really listen to your heart, you'll get the answers that you're looking for. So the heart breath is very simple. Just, drop into a nice deep breath and then imagine you're breathing in and out of your heart. And you can actually do it so that, you can see the breath expanding and then form a field around you of heart energy. And it just feels wonderful. It's something that I teach when I teach classes, public classes. I'll do a heart breath meditation at the end of the class, and participants, will start going like this. You can actually feel the energy. It's that powerful. So this, again, is something that you can do on a regular basis. Do it for 30 seconds, do it for a minute or 5 minutes, as long as you like. You always have that with you, all right? So tip number 4 is to do some EFT tapping. Now, EFT, if you're not familiar with it, stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. And it's an acupressure tapping technique where you tap on specific points on the face, the torso, and the hand. I'm going to show you how to just use one of the points in order to release and reduce anxiety. If you're interested in all of the points and how to use them, visit my website at mariambuckmurray.com. And if you go to the Services tab, you'll find at the bottom some links to a diagram for EFT tapping and the instructions on how to use it. And there's also information about, to give you more information about EFT and how it works. But, one of the major things that EFT does and why it's so good for anxiety is that it helps to reduce cortisol. Cortisol, again, is that major stress hormone, And EFT tapping is one of the most effective techniques for reducing cortisol. And you can do this yourself. So you can use your fingertips to tap on these points. And by tapping on the specific points, you can help to reduce cortisol and feel more relaxed. So the first point, the point that I'm going to show you, is this karate chop point. And the karate chop, or the side of the hand point, it's also called, is this point between the bottom of your pinky and the top of your wrist. So that fleshy part of your hand. Just tapping there while breathing deeply, nice and deeply, is enough to help to reduce cortisol, to begin to reduce cortisol, and help you feel calmer and more relaxed. It's a really good thing to do when you're in a stressful situation and you feel anxiety beginning to rise. Just start tapping on that karate chop point and breathe deeply. It's very good for feelings of panic. So EFT tapping, in a nutshell, really helps to reduce cortisol, and it also helps to neutralize uncomfortable feelings like anxiety and fear and anger and sadness and anything else that you don't want to feel. Okay, so that's tip number 4. And tip number 5 for today, the last tip of the day, is to feel gratitude. So gratitude is an emotion. Oh, I don't know if you hear that, but my daughter is riding off on her motorcycle, and she's a very, very good on her motorcycle, and she stays very safe. But in the beginning, it used to cause me a lot of anxiety, and so I did a lot of tapping. And so now when I hear her motorcycle going off into the distance, I don't feel anxious any longer. But at any rate, speaking of gratitude, I feel very grateful for that I don't feel that anxious anymore about her motorcycle. But shifting into gratitude is a really good way to go from a place that feels very negative into a much more positive space and frame of mind. One technique that I use is to set my timer for about 5 minutes, and then during that 5 minutes to write down things that I'm grateful for. And as I'm writing, I'm summoning that feeling of gratitude. And it really helps to shift, how I'm feeling. Because sometimes, at least I know for me that when I'm not feeling when I'm feeling anxious, when I'm not feeling grateful, when I'm feeling anxious, it's almost the opposite, because I'm thinking about things that I don't have, or things that aren't working out, or, it's a very lack and dissatisfied frame of mind. And so by shifting into feelings of gratitude, you really just get completely away from the thoughts that are causing you anxiety. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. And I will be back with more tips to reduce anxiety, and with other tips and treats as well. So goodbye for now, and I'll see you again.